right, let's move on to the new Chucky-driven Raiders.
Jesus.
No.
The Raiders.
The Raiders.
Yikes.
Sorry for thinking you were a fan of them.
Hey, not a problem.
All right, Derek Carr, who I know a lot of people are starting to hype up this year.
Are they?
We don't feel the same way, I'm pretty sure.
Where?
I did that quarterback sleeper pick. I had a bunch of votes for Derek Carr.
Huh.
Because of his sophomore season. That's
Weird.
probably the only reason why.
So John Gruden, first off, very historically prefers a more balanced offense. He's even ran more sometimes than he's passed, at least in one season. Whereas Greg Olson was Gus Bradley's offensive coordinator that couldn't figure out that moving Allen Robinson around to create matchup problems was a good idea. So I'm not high on this offense right now. For Derek Carr, I think he's probably better than Josh Freeman and Mark Bulger and whatever else not named Blake Bortles Greg Olsen had to work with. But career low 516 pass attempts last season, elevated TD rate and interception rate, completion percentage and yard stats were in line with his career. I don't expect a big jump from his 10.8 yards per completion just because he doesn't work the ball downfield, but they did some things to help the O-line with Colton Miller. So, I don't think that the issue, though, was him under pressure. He was 8th in that regard as far as completion percentage under pressure. So for me, Derek Carr's Alex Smith, and not last year Alex Smith, like career Alex Smith.
And he also can't run, so worse Alex Smith.
Worse Alex Smith.
Yeah, he's 22nd in my rankings. He's currently going 1207 in ADP. I would not draft him currently in a one quarterback.
He's my 24.
Redraft.
I'm not touching him.
Justin?
Well, I'm on board with 22. That's where I've got him at.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just never had the efficiency stats to point to him having a blow-up type season. And that was with him having two of the best receivers in the game, with Cooper having his great sophomore year and Crabtree just blowing up that season for him to even have anything close to a top 12 season.
Yeah, he needs volume.
He doesn't have Crabtree anymore. I don't think Jordy Nelson could properly replace him. Martavis Bryant's probably going to be suspended. I'm not a fan of Derek Carr.
Nope.
Me either.
All right, moving on to the running game. Marshawn Lynch, Doug Martin.
This is going to be frustrating.
And gross.
So Marshawn Lynch, first off, fewest rush per attempt. I just forgot how to talk. Fewest rush attempts in a season that he wasn't injured. However, his efficiency was not bad at all. He's 4.3 per carry, right in line with his career. First in juke rate, second in evaded tackles. Third,
so weird to think
third in
about.
yards created. 4.5 yards per carry against stacked fronts. The guy can still play and still get it done. They just didn't utilize him.
And then they brought in Doug Martin to make it even more confusing.
Well,
John Gruden's got like a fucking massive boner for.
that doesn't necessarily confuse me with Martin. You're going to get a 60-40 split. Martin's going to get passing work, and I think Marshawn Lynch gets most of the 1-2 down between the tackles stuff.
Which makes both of them pretty worthless.
Yeah.
I don't hate Martin. That is 10 ADP.
What's Lynch's?
Lynch is 709.
I don't hate that.
I mean, Deion Lewis is going right before that.
I'd rather have Deion Lewis, yeah, but I don't hate Marshawn Lynch there either, just because, if Gruden doesn't do whatever the hell they did last year and say, okay, no more than 15 carries, or whatever the hell it was that they were doing, it even gives him 2 more carries a game to bump him up to 230. I think that if he keeps his current efficiency, which is what I projected him to do, he breaks 1,000 yards. Lynch does.
Okay. Justin, your thoughts on these two?
I personally am not drafting either one of them just because the uncertainty of Lynch and, as we call him on our show, the rejected Ninja Turtle, Doug Martin. If I had to choose between one of the two, I would take Marshawn just because I just think he's going to be the bruiser guy and he's going to have more potential red zone opportunities. But I just don't know what they're doing. Like, if they brought in a lesser running back or a lesser known back, I would have been like, yeah, it's Marshawn's backfield where Washington and Rashard somehow figure out a way to get in there. But the fact they brought in Doug Martin, that tells me that Gruden's either crazy, which he may be, or he just wants to see some sort of competition, or maybe he's just trying to give Doug Martin a chance, trying to help a guy out. I don't know.
I mean, based on the free agent signings, I'm going with crazy.
I am also going with crazy.
It's crazy.
I don't know what the hell he's doing.
But yeah, this backfield scares the hell out of me. I'm honestly leaning more Martin just because I can take him close to the back end of the 10th, and it's just a dart throw and I'll turn him if nothing happens. But I'm not real excited to take either one.
No.
Not at all.
All right, let's move on to this passing game. Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant. Kicking it off with Cooper. Do we finally see a breakout for him?
I do.
Define breakout. I think that you
top
see
15 finish.
Okay, yeah. I think you see a bounce back from him. He's done that before.
Too.
He's done the top 15 thing before, so I think you see a bounce back from him. At 6.9 targets per game last year for 96 total, that was low for him. Crabtree had 7.8. I expect with Crabtree gone, that Amari Cooper's about at 8.2 per game. 67.7% catchable target rate was a full 5 points lower than the previous year. It's a product of the offense. Drops in reliability are still a problem for him. He's going to need to solve that to get. And the other thing that concerned me a bit with him is he stopped winning contested balls last year. He didn't do that nearly as well. So I do expect a target increase for Cooper. I think the red zone might still be a problem, especially with the addition of Jordy Nelson there. But ultimately, I think that the volume's up. I think his efficiency bounces back a little bit. I don't think he's back to the 62.2% catch rate that he was before. But I think the high 50s is probably likely. And, breakout, no. I don't think it's better than anything he's done. I think it's a return to the norm.
All right. Justin, your thoughts on Amari?
Man, my co-host, my buddy Blackburn on the show, he took Amari Cooper early last year, right around where his ADP was, and man, he was disappointed a lot last year. And then of course he traded him away, and then he got him back when he had that one game, and he didn't play him in that Kansas City game where he blew up, and then he played him once or twice afterwards. And I think he sat on his bench the rest of the year just because he just couldn't stand the guy. But I think he gets back into that talk. I've got him at 16, actually, so just right outside the top 15. And I think that's based on the uncertainty of what type of offense Gruden's going to want to do, honestly. I think he's going to want to try to do old school ground and pound run offense with some passing down the field. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's more on the play calling and not on the talent of Amari Cooper that I'm dinging the Raiders passing game.
So I had a little bit of fun. I talked to these guys off air about this. I spent way too much time deep diving John Gruden's wide receiver ones throughout his coaching career, and I also did the wide receiver twos. Wide receiver ones in Coach Gruden's offense, on average, 137 targets, 78 receptions, 1155 yards, 8 touchdowns, which would have been good for 241.5 points. Wide receiver 8 if it was this season. Just a couple notes on that. Every receiver had 1,000 yards or more, and every receiver but one had over 100 targets. It's where with the touchdowns where things get a little bit interesting. Only 2 receivers had double-digit touchdowns. But moving on to the wide receiver twos, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Also, have Jerry Rice's 2001 year with them, where he had a wide receiver one finish. He pretty much matched what Tim Brown did that year. On average, they put up 78 targets, 44 receptions, 618 yards, and 4 touchdowns, which is good for 121.8. Wide receiver 56. Only one receiver saw more than 100 targets if you're not taking Jerry Rice's season into account at 101. Other highs were 62 receptions, 722 yards, and 6 touchdowns, which happened 3 times, or the wide receiver 31. I love Cooper because I think they're going to feature Cooper in this offense more so than anything else. They've already come out and said that. I'm not in love with Jordy or Bryant if he plays, but it's been 10 years since he's coached. So who knows?
What influences the offense more here? The offensive coordinator or the head coach?
He's an offensive-minded head coach. I'm going with the head coach.
I think it's just with Gruden's personality, too, and the fact that he's...
Does the coordinator have an effect at all? Because this is one of the weirdest marriages to me that I've seen in my life.
And that's why it's hard to predict. It's like, but I had fun figuring this out, too.
The reason that I say that it's weird is because you've got John Gruden, who typically runs a more balanced offense, and Greg Olsen, who apparently hates to run the football and just loads his wide receivers up. So I kind of took the aggregate of the two with a little bit more weight towards Gruden. I still have Jordy under 100 targets.
Yeah.
Or no, I don't. I think I had him at 102. So it was right around there. can't remember if it was 97 or 102. I don't have it in front of me.
Doesn't matter.
5 targets. I'm not going to quabble over that. You look at what this offense did historically also with the personnel. I think that Jordy, you've seen his catch rate go down in each of the last 6 years, but I think that he's still got some in the tank, especially down in the red zone. So I don't expect him to be like hyper efficient per se. I do think that he is the type of receiver that is also a good route runner that can work underneath and fit Derek Carr a bit, especially if they decide to use him out of the slot, which depending on what happens with Bryant, they may or may not. So I'm a little bit more optimistic because of the aggregate of Greg Olsen being there and him influencing it because he is more of a passing offensive coordinator.
He is going at 805. What do you feel about that?
Nope.
I'd prefer it a couple rounds later. I'm going to take a guy that I think that I'm a little bit more in tune with their upside on at that round.
A guy I know who's going in the 10th round who I'd rather take over Jordy Nelson is like Rashard Matthews.
Well, let's put it this way. I know Nelson Aguilar is going in the 13th, and I'd rather have him.
Yeah,
Jamison Crowder's going in the 9th, which I would much rather have too.
I think that was closer for me. I think Jordy got the edge based on touchdowns.
All right. Justin, any thoughts on Jordy Nelson?
I think he comes in and takes a lot of the red zone targets just because I think that's where he's comfortable at, honestly. Especially, and the thing is, if Martavis Bryant's not in there, I think that also takes away and adds more to maybe Nelson's plate for red zone targets because I think that's where Martavis Bryant was going to be helpful in this offense. Primarily was red zone, but I don't know, man. I've got him projected out around 120 fantasy points and a half point, and then I've got Cooper at about 182 in the half point. So I just think that you're going to see them both featured. I think Cooper's going to be the more featured, obviously, to get him down the field. But I do think that Nelson's going to see some red zone opportunities.
Okay. And then do you think Bryant's suspended, or what are you expecting for that?
Oh, man. It's hard to tell with Roger Goodell and that office as to who's going to get what, and it's never, like, across the board. But I think that if it's what they're saying happened where he did not attend certain meetings and or tests that he was supposed to, technically by the NFL Players Association and NFL's agreement on that, the drug policy testing and all that, he will be suspended for all of this year.
Fun.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting too, based on what I'd heard. All right, any last thoughts on Bryant before we move on to the tight ends?
No, I didn't have thoughts on Bryant beforehand.
All right, Jared Cook, last thoughts on him before we wrap up this division.
Not much for a red zone threat historically, but he did have 5.3 targets per game last season. Seems pretty reasonable, especially with Bryant's suspension hold. So, back end tight end 1 just on pass volume.
If Bryant does get suspended for the year, I'll bump Cook up. But historically, Gruden's kind of been meh. For tight ends, 55 target, 34 receptions, 370 yards and 3 touchdowns, which was 89 points in PPR. Good for tight end 25.
10 years ago, though, different era.
That's the argument where this is. Cook's also probably one of the better tight ends he'll have, even though he's old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little higher. I think I got him at tight end 21. Maybe,
he's my 20.
Line him up at fullback and put an all-star jersey on him.
There we go. All the touchdowns from the 1 yard line. Anything else we want to add here on the Raiders?
Nope.
No.
All right.
No, I'm good. They're going to be an interesting team to watch, though, for sure.
Yeah, I don't have very high expectations for them this year.